the town of Up and Down. Born in wilderness, built on cliffs, and suspended somewhere between folklore and fact. In the earliest days, covered wagons creaked through pine-thick woods. Mule-drawn carts climbed switchback trails. Cowboys and old men on horseback passed under canopies of mountain mist. Here roads didn't follow the land, they defied it. No houses built on the level, a narrator said in 1919. What you're looking at is a 1919 film of early Eureka Springs from the National Archives. All are on the hillsides. Houses vary from 1 to 5 stories, depending on which side you enter. Even the streetcars had to climb like goats. This was a place for wanderers, seekers, and those with strong legs, or strong faith. They came on foot, on horseback, in wagons, or in later years crammed into early automobiles winding up dirt paths that seemed to vanish into sky. The town's roads were cut from rock by prisoners in striped uniforms. They swung picks, they pushed mule-drawn plows, and somehow a civilization bloomed. A stone house here, a castle on a wooded hill there, a streetcar puffing up a slope so steep it looked like a magic trick. By the early 1900s, little girls rode horses up mountain trails, danced around campfires, and waved at passing cars. The wilderness was still near, but so was something stranger.
The real miracle of Eureka Springs was the town itself. Built on cliffs, carved into mountainsides, designed with no street grid and no straight lines. Even the 8-story Basin Park Hotel has ground-level entrances on every floor. People came for the water, but they stayed for something stranger. A self-described hippie named Barbara Harmony arrived from New Jersey and never left. She set up a chair in the park and started giving astrological readings. Her neighbor, an artist named Sandra Sinar, called it a magic vibe. Together they welcomed the seekers, spiritualists, alien abductees, tarot readers, ministers, mystics, and misfits. By the early 2000s, Eureka Springs had more than 400 ordained ministers. Nearly 5,000 people were licensed to perform weddings. And not just church weddings. Think fairy tale elopements, druid ceremonies, UFO blessings, and everything in between. Even Governor Mike Huckabee honeymooned here in 1974. He called it a natural magnet. Others have called it a vortex. One bookstore owner said, "People don't turn off their brains here. They come to open them." And then there's the Crescent Hotel. Built in 1886, perched high above the town, it was once a spa for the rich. Then it became a phony cancer hospital run by a con man named Norman Baker. Today, it's known as one of the most haunted hotels in the world. Guests report hearing footsteps in the autopsy room. One woman saw a man in a top hat step into the morgue and vanish. Lamps flicker, doors open by themselves. And in room 419, known as Theodora's room, ghost hunters caught lights switching on and off, all captured on video. During one tour, a woman asked the guide why he didn't introduce the man in the rocking chair. But there was no man. Her sister laughed and said, "That's what I told her." Then there's Morris, a striped orange cat who lived at the hotel for 21 years and is buried in the garden with a full headstone. Some say Morris still walks the halls. Guests have felt a cat brush against their legs. Some have seen him, others have followed him, only to find nothing there. And if that's not enough, there are orbs, glowing spheres caught on camera. One guest reported an orb zigzagging toward her, flying behind her, then stopping to hover just inches from her face. She said the room turned ice cold, then the orb vanished. Japan's Fuji Television aired an entire episode on the Crescent for their show, What Is This Mystery? Paranormal investigators from all over the world now visit the hotel. So do ghost tour groups, thrill seekers, skeptics, and people who swear they've been here before in a past life. Maybe they have, because Eureka Springs isn't just a town, it's a threshold. A place where history loops, where water runs deep, and something else does too. If you're going to explore the weirdness of Arkansas, you might as well start here, where the springs still bubble, where Morris still prowls the hall, and where no one ever really leaves.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
Hey, gang.
Hey.
You know, in that 1990 National Archives, I couldn't figure out what those people were with those white cone hats dancing. It was like, okay. That was kind of, but it was cool to find actual film, you know, from back then. So, yeah, so tonight's Cosmic Fold Paranormal Highway takes us through Arkansas. I'm Deborah. Everyone want to introduce themselves?
I'm Jose. Yeah.
I'm Al, and that's Day.
And there's Jose. So, any comments before we start our slideshows for our history lesson on Arkansas?
Comments?
Yeah. Anyone been to Arkansas? I've been to Arkansas a couple times.
I've been through Arkansas.
I've been through.
She's been through.
I was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
no,
went,
I haven't.
As a kid, I don't remember if it was the Missouri or Arkansas Ozarks. We had to go to this long-winded, week-long church thing there. But
I did too.
then
Actually, that's how I went through there. It was a Jehovah's
for the Feast of Tabernacles.
Ours was a Jehovah's Witness convention, and it was way over there. And yeah, there was a lot of. I think we camped in Houston at that point because we were doing this whole trip and following their circuit assembly. My dad has speaking part. It's all in there.
Former Jehovah's Witness.
No, I was never, but my parents were, and I fought to get free.
I think we did a show on that, Deb.
I hear you.
But
It's a big thing to leave a religion.
Oh,
but the second time I was in, I've driven through it a couple times, but then I stayed there for a while when the guy Whitehawk, the one that saw the UFO crash, the guy that used to live with me, and anyway, I went to see him, and so I went to the Cherokee Nation has like an area by hot springs. And so they have their own hot springs, and it was the coolest place ever. So anyway, I hung out with the Indians for when I was there, and we did a bunch of ceremonies and whatever. And at the end, they gave me a certificate of adoption as a Cherokee.
Nice.
I didn't keep it because I felt like I'm not Native. You know, that's an honor that I don't deserve. But it was cool that they gave that. They said, you know, you're going to be doing something for the Indians sometime in your life. I don't know what that is, other than I work on I do work on Indian water rights settlement. So,
yeah, they knew then.
They did. And so, but that was a really cool experience. And those hot springs, especially when there's not all the tourists, you're just with the native people. It's an incredible experience, and you just feel so good after you get out of there. It's like every toxin that was ever in your body is gone. It's like burned out. It's so hot in those, but it's a very cool thing.
Cool.
So, okay. So here we go. I'll add to the stage our Cosmic Fold history lesson narrated by Al.
Arkansas, not Arkansas, which I have not figure out just yet. the natural state's Tapestry of Tales. Just a little history. It became the 25th U.S. state on June 15th in 1836. Covers about 53,179 square miles, or just over 34 million acres, or about the size of the Dutton Ranch. Ranks as the 29th largest U.S. state. So that's a little background there on Arkansas. It's got a lot of natural wonders. It's known as the natural state. Features the Ozark and Ouachita. Did I pronounce that right? Ouachita? Ouachita? The Ouachita Mountains.
It's close, yeah.
Close. My apologies to the Ouachita. It includes fertile farmland in the Arkansas Delta, and it is a paradise for nature lovers.
It's true. When you drive through there, there's like all these twisty roads, and you could barely go 10 miles an hour. It's very cool.
Be fun on a motorcycle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Diamonds in the rough. Here you go. Arkansas is home to the Crater of Diamonds State Park, which sounds fascinating. It's the only public diamond-bearing site in the U.S. Visitors can hunt and keep any diamonds they find. Mm-hmm. And it's the site of the massive 40.23 carat Uncle Sam diamond that was found in 1924. That sounds cool.
They also have crystals all over that you could just go and they just let you take them. So it's like
gold?
I don't know. They seem pretty open about doing, any kind of mineral hunting out there. At least when I was, I don't know if that's different now.
I don't know. That's very popular though here in Georgia. There's several places here, which we'll get to down the road. Arkansas has some unique culinary claims too. It claims to be the birthplace of cheese dip. Respect. It hosts the World Cheese Dip Championship. How did I not know about that? It's a very cherished Southern culinary tradition. The image that you see on your screen here is from the littlerock.com events page for the World Cheese Dip Championships. Oh, look.
One of our guests says.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Kim.
Oh, hey.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
She says Steve, her husband, who is a wonderful human being, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with him on Sunday.
Tomorrow.
If I'm not deathly ill from the 4 vaccinations I got today all at one time.
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
Yeah, I got pneumonia, RSV, COVID, and what was the other one? Pneumonia. Yeah.
No,
that's
you
fun.
said that twice.
I did pneumonia, COVID, RSV, and shingles. Shingles. Yeah, shingles. Anyway, she says Steve worked in Stuttgart, Arkansas, and the rice fields there attracted a lot of ducks. So the businesses and restaurants had names that included ducks. That's a little nice bit of trivia there, Kim. Thank you. And we hope you're feeling better. But yeah, Arkansas apparently is the home of cheese dip. I'm a big fan.
I didn't know that either.
Nope.
And they were saying, in that picture, you see they have like muffin, like what you make muffins in.
Muffin pan, yeah.
Tell everybody to. Yeah, they say tell everybody to bring your muffin pan, and then they just fill the things with cheese.
Right,
Oh man, my stomach would just be
And I
roiling
don't know
after
what
eating that
she
much.
has,
But it
but
it's
she's
probably as
smart.
good though.
It's a pretzel.
Ooh, pretzel. Oh, God. There's nothing you can't put with cheese dip. Now, musical heritage.
Oh, you love it.
Now, I am probably the world's biggest Johnny Cash fan. I'm just saying, I'm not a very good singer, but when it comes to Johnny Cash songs, he's right in my range. So I have a lot of fun in karaoke.
And we sing Don Jackson.
Yeah, we sing Jackson. But yeah, Johnny Cash, Howlin' Wolf, and others. It's got a really rich legacy of country, blues, and folk music, of which I am also a fan.
Yeah, my dad was a big fan of Johnny Cash, and he'd play it all the time to the point you'd get sick of it. But now that I'm older, I really like it. He was, way ahead of his time.
Oh, yeah.
With some what he was doing.
No,
Way different sound from their time, yeah.
yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
'cause when I'm on the road solo.
Well,
Yeah, just me, because usually we ride together. She'll text our little family group, "Oh, I'm riding solo today, so I don't have to listen to Dad's music." Because I can get really annoying with that Bose stereo system I got in that truck. Weather wonders. Look at that. Dixie Alley, if you're not familiar with that, it's a very tornado prone region, interstate. It's known for intense thunderstorms, hail, and of course tornadoes. And there's a history of very destructive and memorable weather events. It's that picture that if you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, that picture, we've seen that. We've seen storms like that because we'll go look
when
at
you're
that
on the road. Oh,
yeah, when you're on the road, we look up out the window and like, well, gonna get some weather here in a minute.
Oh.
Yeah, and they also have some quirky laws there in Arkansas. First of all, it's illegal to mispronounce Arkansas. It must be pronounced Arkansas, not Arkansas. Arkansas. The state legislature actually officially settled the pronunciation way back in 1881. Be interesting to know how that name came about. I'm sure. Yeah, because it's like, no, that's your Kansas. This is Arkansas.
You know how they showed how it should be pronounced AR-KAN-SAW?
Yeah.
Well, there's a big newspaper, and I'm thinking, why are they spelling it like that? That's exactly how we spelled it, and it probably, ran in the 1800s, so it probably was to, make people pronounce the word correctly.
Or they just ran out of W's in the printing press and had a couple of extra S's laying around.
But wait, I want to know how that became a court case.
It wasn't. It was the legislature.
Either way, how did this become a thing that you had to go before people and declare a law how to pronounce? So,
and what's the penalty?
Even here now, we're in Georgia, and it's Lithonia. It's Lithia, it's Lithia, it's everything. So how
Can you
do
imagine,
you make a law?
Imagine driving down the street and you get pulled over by a cop. And you get a ticket for saying Arkansas. Here's something that you were talking about before the show started, Deb. The Hot Springs National Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's famously, obviously, for naturally heated thermal waters, and it once believed to have some healing powers. We've been to a couple of hot springs.
Oh, I love the hot springs in Panama. You just felt so good when you got out of that. And it wasn't hot, but it was warm enough that you just felt different. You felt super clean when you got out, which was also, it was the clearest, cleanest water I think I've ever been in.
Yeah, it felt like that for me too. My skin was like bright red after being in there, but oh man, I felt good.
Yeah.
I get that way from too much Texas Pete. Try not to kick the fan out. Avian oddities. I'm tripping over my own fan cord here. Avian oddities. Now, in the early 1900s, Hot Springs hosted the largest ostrich farm in America. Right? It was a unique chapter in Arkansas's animal attractions. If you look at the screen here, the image that you see, if you're watching this, is a postcard advertising the Ostrich Farm tourist attraction in Hot Springs in Garland County. This picture is circa the early 20th century, probably 1915, 1918, maybe a little sooner than that. But yeah, that's...
I would think.
Yeah, there's...
If there's a delay in me answering, it's because my internet keeps going in and out, so...
Yeah. I think it would be cool to just drive down Piedmont Avenue in downtown Atlanta with a cart being pulled by an ostrich.
Someone's saddling on an ostrich.
But these days, that would not be that weird.
That's true.
Come on.
It's probably fit right in here.
I'm just telling you, these days, that would not be that shocking.
Yeah.
Where back then, it would be like, oh my God.
Yeah. A couple of days ago, they found a dead horse on the sidewalk in downtown Atlanta.
See?
How? No cameras caught it. It's just a dead horse. Just on the sidewalk in front of an apartment complex. Just odd. Just very odd. But yeah, ostrich farms, though. Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually seen one. I've seen an emu at a zoo. I don't think I've ever seen an ostrich. I think it would be pretty cool.
Oh no, I've seen some, and they're much bigger than you expect.
Like moose.
Yes, they're big.
They're much
And
bigger than you
they'll
expect.
grab your fingers if you put them in
Yeah,
there.
we've done the lion country safari thing, but also I've seen live ostriches and like rescue. When I was a homeschool mom, we just found everything we could do and stick our noses in. And some of the rescues, like people brought them over and like the emu farms, and I'm going to make money. You don't understand what you're dealing with. They're very hostile.
Very.
Very strong. And they're super fast.
Oh, look, it's Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton. We all know him. Former president, 42. He was born in Hope, Arkansas. And he did launch his political career in Little Rock, Arkansas. Oh, look at that. Welcome to Arkansas, the natural state. Buckle up for safety. It's a state like no other. Where the cheese dip is holy. The diamonds are hiding in plain sight. And every legend comes with a banjo solo and a side of paranormal.
Good job, Elle.
Thank you. We get a lot of banjos up here in North Georgia.
Not on purpose.
Yeah, we're only about 20 minutes, half hour away from when they filmed Deliverance.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, you know.
Is that where the dead horse came from?
You hear a pig squealing, it's either a pig or a tourist.
We're too close to Atlanta for many wildlife varieties. Like we're right at the perimeter, but
you go 20 minutes in north or west, you got bears and all kinds of things.
It's a lot of like my daughter owned a house in Douglasville, so when we were living in Panama, her and her spouse were going to Colombia for 10 days. And so we crossed through an airport so I could house sit for her and her animals, and she went to Colombia. Now, we never really got to hang out because then she got home and took me to the airport to go home.
Oh.
But I got to hang out for 10 days, going to thrift stores, buying a new wardrobe, take back to Panama. Little people, nothing fit. I had to buy clothes here.
Yeah, but there's a good amount.
When there's a lot going on in the rural.
Yeah.
We're right now right up against Atlanta.
Yeah.
And oh my God, anything can happen in Atlanta. Don't be shocked.
And it usually does.
And don't hit your brakes. Somebody's going to hit you.
And sometimes it does involve wildlife. There's a lot of indigenous wildlife here. There's, you got your bears and mountain lions and anything you're going to find in Appalachia. Sometimes they wander down a little further south and they get into neighborhoods. You see stories on the news about a black bear crawling into someone's, little crawl space under their house and whatnot. But we don't get nearly a lot of that where we are. We have mostly gunfire here.
Yeah, we're in the land of violence, not animals.
The horse thing, so they had cameras around and
nothing caught it. No, they.
I wonder if it was on the back of a truck or something and fell off, or
nobody knows. And just
what's crazy is though, it was like downtown.
Yeah, it was like
this
downtown.
Isn't in the metro, or this was like downtown.
Yeah.
And they left it in front of a door of a whole different building, and it's really hard to move a horse.
Yeah.
There are like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, it was just sitting there. But
so because they abandoned it there, it became this whole city issue. Well, now we got to get a horse out of it.
Yeah. Animal control really they take care of like dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't put a horse in the bed of a pickup truck.
No.
We found out
that's insane
in our backyard that you can only actually do that if you're 100 feet out from the city limits. Like there are rules about where you can keep non-domestic animals, farm animals, wildlife, whatever. And so it was really shocking to hear that it was in Atlanta.
Especially downtown like that.
Yeah.
And they've got cameras everywhere.
Everywhere, I know. That's
crazy.
What are you going to do? Yeah, it's all right.
Well, it's a whole new cosmic fold mystery.
And of course, as usual, when you hear something on the news, you're like, the newscaster is like, first of all, they're always big with the exclusively only on Channel 2, yeah, when
That's Kim.
yeah. Oh, yeah. She says a friend of hers had an ostrich farm in Paulding County about 20 years ago. Paulding County is about a half hour west, 45 minutes west of us.
Yeah.
West-northwest. Oh. Wow, that's cool.
But, okay, 20 years ago. They were new on the scene. It was a new thing that you could do this, that you could raise them, you could make money, you could use them. Then there became the races. Like, there are ostrich races. Look it up.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a thing. So when it first showed up on the scene, I can see where everybody blew every story out of proportion because you don't do this.
Yeah, it seems like in the 90s around here, it was like the rage, and it was like terrible. Everybody was just like, oh man, this is the worst mistake ever. Because they're violent. They're nasty.
They're very aggressive.
And I can't even imagine having owned chickens and grown up around chickens and seeing the amount of poop a 6-pound chicken makes. I can't even imagine an ostrich farm, what that might be like.
Ostrich burgers.
Oh, he made
burgers.
He made burgers and boots. Oh.
Yeah, ostrich boots, I can see. I never thought of eating
I never thought of eating their meat. I heard they were tough, but
okay, cool.
Well, the eggs are just gigantic, huge.
The eggs are, yeah.
Yeah.
Put that on top of an ostrich burger. There you go.
Oh, this is big right here.
That's big egg. That's a big egg.
Okay. I'm going to put our UFO story up. I went through 100 years of stories here, so I just made a quick little video to sort of summarize it. They had an interesting take compared to like what we talked about, the big airwave in the 1880s. Remember, we talked about that a few shows ago?
Yeah.
Their take was very different. I was surprised. So here we go. Let's see.
Airship dreams and strange lights. In the 1880s, much of America was consumed with rumors, tales of strange lights darting across the night sky. While newspapers in the Northeast leaned into yellow journalism, hyping phantom ships and celestial wonders, Arkansas had its gaze fixed on something far more grounded and far more ambitious. Meet Professor Hunnicutt of Malvern, Arkansas. While the rest of the country panicked over mystery lights, he was filing patents. The Arkansas Gazette, August 8, 1885, proudly declared, "At an early day, a full-size ship is to be manufactured, and then, of course, public trials will be had." In 1886, the mood began to shift. Public enthusiasm gave way to satire. One local ad from the Southern Standard teased readers, "Before heading to Mars, stop by McNutt's General Store for supplies." By 1910, Arkansas began seeing what the rest of the country had: unexplained lights. The Arkansas Gazette reported, "Did you see the what is it?" A bright comet-like light was spotted in the northwest sky, prompting calls to the newsroom. In 1953, a glowing object passed over rooftops in Paragould. Mrs. Paul Kellum described it. It was weaving around like a fish in water. It darted and vanished, then came back. The Paragould Daily Press headline read, "Don't laugh, it was real to us." In November 1957, it wasn't one sighting, it was dozens. "It looked like a pumpkin," said a Batesville man. "It emitted sparks," said a Fayetteville student. "It hovered for 30 minutes," said residents in Springdale. While Arkansas watched from the ground, John Mayo, a stewardess from Jonesboro, watched from the sky. Aboard an Eastern Airlines flight over Lafayette, Louisiana, she and her crew spotted a bright, shiny object at 20,000 feet. Ticket agents on the ground confirmed it. That same week, the sun in Jonesboro reported a glowing orb twice the size of the North Star, visible for over 25 minutes. One reporter gave a play-by-play of its behavior over the phone with the Associated Press. It blinked out, then returned, then vanished again. 40 years later, in Mountain Home, Arkansas, people were still looking up.
The Baxter Bulletin ran the headline, "Ball of Light Puzzles Area Observers." One resident said, "It was bluish-gray like a ghost light, not normal." Another watched it cast reflections across his carpet. No roads nearby. "It was very interesting. I'm glad I got to see it." From airship dreams to aerial mysteries. For over 100 years, Arkansans have looked skyward, not just in fear or wonder, but in search of meaning. Maybe it was a machine, maybe a meteor, maybe something else. But whatever it was, it kept coming back.
Theirs was interesting. You know, and in some of these articles, I can't, towards the later, in the 1880s. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I had my mic moving. I was like, no, not again. Never mind. Pass.
But around 1886, the legislature back then they set aside $150,000. This is in the 1880s to develop these airships. So they were taking it very seriously, not as something paranormal or weird. And so that professor, he was like very well loved, and they spoke very highly of him in the papers. And all of a sudden, he just like disappears. So apparently, maybe his airship didn't work. I couldn't even find his obituary. It was weird.
Huh. Maybe he was abducted.
And yeah, I even checked AI. I did everything trying to find what happened to this guy, and it was like, but he was definitely in the papers for like 2 years, and he got a patent for this thing. He did like a little test of one in Little Rock, and so and then some other companies started to form, and they were all trying to build airships, and so.
I wouldn't be surprised if they erased his history.
Yeah. I mean, you could do it easier back then. There was no internet.
That wouldn't shock me, but just the backstory that so many were trying to find out about lights and launching their own things would mean many other people saw crazy things.
Yeah,
and that's where you go back to humans, and I see what I don't understand. I don't know what to name it. There was something that went on. I don't remember what it was, but when you said Arkansas, I started looking up, and something happened in the 1930s, and it has followed a story for generations about how horrible something is that it's not a thing. People go through there all the time now. This is not a thing, but back then it was a thing. So if you saw some of the early lights, and then companies come in and they're trying to find those lights, so they're sending up more lights. Then in the later, we're all seeing lights. Doesn't that kind of almost self-explain? It's kind of like these drones that have shown up, and everybody's like, okay, whatever it is, it's man-made. That wasn't special. That was spy bullshit.
Unless it isn't.
I don't know. I think if aliens are coming here, they're so sophisticated, we're not going to know about it until they're ready for us to know about it.
Yeah.
You can't go all these light years and do what you need as a higher species.
I think they fly by and look down and roll their windows up and lock their doors.
But even if they're already here, they're smart, they're being quiet, and they're watching. Because that's how you survive in our human culture. You watch,
lay low,
shut your mouth. Because you're a target the minute you speak.
Yep.
It's true.
Smart aliens.
Well, I didn't hear most of that because my internet keeps jumping around, but I'm sure it was good. So let me see. I'm going to pull up our high strangeness thing. There we go.
Presentation. All right, see what we got here.
High strangeness. I love that. When I'm high, there is strangeness.
Yes, that's very true. Ooh, ghostly encounters. This will be very interesting.
Read about this one.
Yeah, the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, or they used to say in the 20s. Whoops. The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs. Built in 1886, this luxury hotel became a hospital under the fraudulent Dr. Norman Baker. They're so close to Dr. Norman Bates. This is back in the 1930s. While the precise number is unknown, there have been at least 42 deaths confirmed at the Crescent Hotel during Norman Baker's 2-year ownership. However, historians believe that an actual number is likely much higher due to incomplete records and Baker's attempt to destroy evidence. Guests report ghostly sightings and apparitions, and according to America's Most Haunted Hotel, on February 5th, 2019, while working to extend the parking pad at the north end of the 1886 Crescent Hotel and Spa's 15 acres of mountaintop property, a chance discovery was made by the hotel's landscape gardener, Susan Benson. There, in that first scoop of dirt, were a couple of strange medical-looking bottles. Knowing part of the hotel's history, that it was once a cancer-curing hospital, in the late 30s, Benson called the hotel's ghost tour manager, Keith Scales. Upon arrival, Scales realized the bottles he was looking at were identical to those that appeared on an advertising poster of the late Norman Baker, the charlatan who operated the hotel. Imagine that. Someone selling snake oil.
And
Yeah,
and people who were desperate.
It would be a shame if someone like that ended up in the White House, but we won't go there.
But apparently he was charging people all kinds of money, and using this water and all his other concoctions that he came up with to so cure. And some of the documentaries I saw, he was hiding bodies in the basement. I mean, he was really bad news.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Okay, but pay attention that in 2019, they were expanding a parking lot for their spa. What? This is condemned and ghosts and crazy and dead people, and you turn this into a spa. What?
No, I think they were probably adding, because that whole area there's hot springs everywhere. People go just
So
to
I'm just going
enjoy
to say,
that.
thanks for the massage, and then have your masseuse say, but I haven't touched you yet.
1886. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that would
have.
It was listed.
What worst of just taking advantage.
Yeah, that's a thing.
But people nowadays will pay huge money to go on a ghost tour.
Yeah.
Well, I think that hotel does have a lot of ghost stories, and even if you go on YouTube, you're able to find a lot of videos showing either things flying off the shelves, alarm clocks going off.
I saw things earlier, and I was like, "This was like a real big thing."
Yeah.
That one, tons of activity that they've documented. So
yeah. I'm gonna have to lose a couple hours on YouTube looking at that. Thanks, Jose. How about the Gurdon light? The Gurdon. There's a light. A mysterious floating light on railroad tracks. First seen in the 1930s. Some say it's the lantern of a decapitated worker looking for his head. I've lost my head a couple of times. Many theories and stories exist to explain the light, including one which connects the 1931 murder of William McLean, a railroad worker. The popular local legend drew national attention in December of 1994 when NBC's Unsolved Mysteries television show documented the phenomenon. I can tell you that if I'm on train tracks and I see a light, I'm getting off the tracks.
Me too.
Just, common sense. But Unsolved Mysteries is actually a really cool show.
Yeah,
it's a very cool show. The Allen
this
House.
one's really famous too. There's some good documentaries on this one.
Well, in Monticello, there is a structure called the Allen House, and it's known for its alleged haunting, with stories centering around Liddell Allen, a daughter of the family, who reportedly died of cyanide poisoning in 1948. The room where she died was sealed for nearly 4 decades, and upon reopening, a cyanide bottle and letters pertaining to a secret relationship were found, fueling the haunted reputation. Visitors report voices and shadowy figures. Some even hear footsteps. And if you look at the image on the screen here from Arkansas.com, it looks like there's a figure in that window. You can see the face and the head at top by where the curtain angles down. I don't see anything else in there, but yeah, it's amazing how many photos there are out there of things like this, and they're before Photoshop. Before any of the touching up photos or making fake photos was very difficult and very time consuming and very expensive.
The people that bought that, he was a professor, and his wife, I think, is very well educated too. And so they were just moving, they wanted to just get out of the city and whatever. And this place is sort of dilapidated. So they bought it and started renovating. And they were having all kinds of like weird stuff happening, and they didn't know why. And I don't remember if it was he had a dream or just something feeling or something. And so he, they're renovating, but he opens up this room and finds this, like the love notes and cyanide bottle and all of that under, not the bottle wasn't in there, just the love notes were under the floor, like in a hidden compartment kind of thing. And so it was like they finally had an answer about that, because so it was, I don't remember if it was like for like 4 or 5 years that they were going through all this stuff until he discovered this thing. And they're still renovating the place. Yeah. But the videos on them, they're pretty interesting, and they just don't seem like charlatan types that would just make it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, here's Jose's area of expertise.
Cryptids and critters. I love cryptids. The Boggy Creek. I guess that's Fouke monster. We're just going to go with Fouke because Fouke it. Arkansas' own Bigfoot type. It seems like he wants a Bigfoot. I want a Bigfoot. Anyway, I have a Bigfoot. That's right. Arkansas's own Bigfoot type cryptid creature, first gaining fame in the 1970s through the film, and I did see this, The Legend of Boggy Creek, reported to be 7 feet tall with a foul odor and red eyes. The creature was made famous from the 1970s film. I remember seeing that movie. It creeped me the hell out. Just did.
Was it good? Was it a good movie? I've never seen it.
I thought it was, but you have to kind of like that genre.
I wrote it down, so I'm gonna have to watch it. Yeah. Dave points.
It's rated G. It was a pretty cool little flick. Check it out.
Didn't we watch it?
It's probably on YouTube. Whoa! Look at what in the world is White River Monster?
A lot of sci-fi movies that look like that.
The White River Monster is one of Arkansas's premier mysteries. Miniseries. Yeah. Since 1915, along the White River near Newport, that's Jackson County, the monster has appeared several times, and it's become a local legend. It's said to be an aquatic creature with tusks and spiny skin. Wow, I'm just looking at that picture, and I'm like, it's an alligator and a walrus got together.
Yeah.
Anyway, on July 1st, 1937, Bramlett Bateman, the owner of a plantation near the river, saw the monster. He reported it as having gray skin and being as wide as a car and 3 car lengths long, or about 45 feet. A monster refuge was created for it in 1973 by the state legislature. Boy, Arkansans really take their cryptids seriously.
Another law for the day.
I know if I saw that, I'd jump back on the train track with the white light. That's pretty cool, though, The Ozark Howler, a horned, howling feline with glowing red eyes and shaggy black hair. Its scream is said to be blood-curdling. Some say it's a hoax. Some biologists say it's a mountain lion that's mutated into a subspecies. I do know that I guess this is an AI generated image.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty scary, Its scream is said to be blood curdling. I've dated women. Never mind. Hoax, not hoax. We don't know a lot about what's out there. Especially with the ocean. most of the ocean is unexplored. So, why wouldn't a lot of our forest land be,
I revert back to, and I know apparently, as you referenced, there's a skeptic. Not so much skeptic, but if I can explain something, then it can't be magical and not real.
I swear it looks like Deb just chugged some Jack Daniels. Sorry.
That's what everyone says. It's my treat for the shows is iced tea.
But when things start out with 1937 or 1970, we have to also look at it in the light of what they knew and what they had seen. So all those really old things you got to take with a huge grain of salt, although don't let it drive your blood pressure up. The newer
They make
things,
for great stories, though.
They do. They make for fascinating stories.
If you want to terrify any kid, tell them any of these things will happen if
Show
they misbehave or don't get in before
Show them a
dark.
crocodile with walrus tusks. That'll do.
Speaking of scaring kids, one of the things, but I couldn't verify it. It came up on Reddit or somewhere, and I couldn't find a link to verify it. But one of them, they had like these huge, gigantic mosquitoes that would pick up livestock. No, that was apparently told to kids so they'd come in at night. Although I have to say, in Wisconsin, the mosquitoes are almost that big. It's like, holy smokes.
Wasn't there a scary horror film from the 80s or 70s that had dealt with large flies?
Yeah. Yeah. Reminded me of boot camp on Paris Island with those sand fleas. They're so big they needed names.
I was raised in South Florida, and I don't know, it was kind of tropical, and we had the biggest, grossest looking things that were out to bite you all the time. Yeah. And then we moved to Panama, and the scorpions are everywhere. And out his hand next to a tarantula that was as big as a dinner plate, and it's just walking across the road. Traffic stopped for it.
I got out and took pictures. Took video. Like, check this out.
If you could stop traffic and you're some kind of insect, whatever,
arachnid, whatever, yeah,
you are impressive.
Yeah.
I used to live in this area close to here called Linden, and I swear those tarantulas, and they would go up the side of your house, and they were like that big. They were,
but
and we
they're
would
generally not.
Them.
But they're not aggressive.
Yeah, they're not.
Unless
they're not
you
aggressive.
are.
Yeah.
We have them out here too, but they become chicken food real quick.
Yeah.
I
guess so, yeah.
You have to be careful of the frogs.
Oh yeah.
The iridescent frogs in Panama.
The cane toads.
All the frogs and toads in Panama with our dogs and the scorpions.
Because all you got to do is lick it,
yep,
and you've lost it.
A lot of scorpions
wow.
are the bigger ones, and they sting, and you have an issue, and you get sick, but you're fine. It's the little ones that are very dangerous.
Yeah,
young, full of poison.
Yep.
Out here, after the the first of the big wildfires that started in the West was called the Rodeo Chattiskai. And after we got back from being evacuated, where I lived, we were lucky because the whole other side of the highway was burnt down. But there were all these bugs that nobody had seen before. And I was sending pictures to the university because they had never seen them. The heat had like pulled these creatures that were just like, under the ground or wherever they are. Yeah. And then they came out. And so, you see some of this stuff and you think, maybe they are around, because it was very weird with all those bugs that they'd never seen before. And some were really big, it's like...
We're still finding things.
Yeah.
So when something crazy pops up, we take pictures too. Yeah. I was working on a farm when I was homeschooling, and we went to a farm that was part of our physical and our sciences. And we watched chickens hatch, and we did all that stuff. It was fresh cut flowers and vegetables and whatever. It doesn't matter. So, but... he was right up against a creek that
Turkey Creek,
that the state bought 12 of his acres on either side of this creek, and they were like, you can never use it, but they paid phenomenal money for it because there were things that lived there,
endangered species,
salamanders and other things that only live there. So we were on his farm, and at at one point we're making the rows before he plants. And so I have my kids out there, of course, because it was homeschool days. And I was like, I'll give you $1 for every row you make the crevice in from top to bottom. Because this was a farm. It was 65 acres altogether. So anyway, my kids decided to put their butts in the dirt and have races. In their butts making grooves. I was out $12.
Yeah.
They got it done. But one of the rows had a spider come up that had what looked like 500 babies on its back, and they were all iridescent and glowing.
Oh, wow.
Well, then we talked to him. He was actually, he got a degree in agriculture and husbandry, and he was all in with the state. And he's like, no, that's like a near extinct spider that only pops up here.
Wow.
And it was crazy because I had never seen anything like that.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you,
You don't know till you know.
Growing up in New
Yeah.
York City, you know, you get used to the dog-sized rats and the giant cockroaches. When I got down to Florida, I got the experience, my first experience of what they kindly call a palmetto bug,
Oh, those are so gross.
which is
Oh,
basically a giant flying cockroach.
yes.
I didn't even know these things existed until they started. I was just walking somewhere and I got like bum rushed by a flock. I call them a flock because they look like birds. But yeah,
those
there's
are-
a lot of interesting.
The stink bugs are worse, though. You step on one of them and everybody's gagging.
Yeah.
But those flying cockroaches, though,
Ugh.
I
They're real.
rented a place. It's called Cave Creek, north of Phoenix. I'd never heard of those. I mean, cockroaches already freak me out. And
As
so
they do.
I just got this place. I'm, cleaning it up, getting ready to get my stuff moved in. And this, I had some like toiletries and stuff there, and just cleaning. And this damn thing came like flying at me. I'm screaming. I'm by myself. I'm screaming. I'm running through this place. I take every like bug stuff I could, and it's like dripping, and it's still flying. And so I thought, oh hell no! And so I went and got oven cleaner, and I sprayed it with oven, and it was still flying around. I am like running all over this place, screaming. It's chasing me. Finally, I ran in the bathroom. I got my hairspray.
Hairspray works.
Makes their wings stick together.
When you're in South Florida, you learn hairspray works as a child. You also
does.
learn it's flammable. So
Well, that's our community service segment. If you guys have a
Yeah.
in chasing you, take your hairspray.
Yeah. Heber Springs Water Panther. That sounds like a Six Flags ride, doesn't it? Right. The Heber Springs Water Panther is a creature described as a cross between a Bigfoot and a puma. It's rumored to haunt the waters of Greer's Ferry Lake in Heber Springs. In his 2007 book, Ozark Tales of Ghost Spirits, Hauntings and Monsters, author W.C. Jameson claims that first Native American residents and later Euro-American hunters and trappers told of a beast that lived in a limestone cave and haunted the Little Red River bottomlands, killing people and animals and emitting a scream that was a cross between a cry of a panther and the scream of Satan himself. It's very descriptive. Jameson wrote, someone's got a recording of, anyway. Jameson wrote of a scuba diver in the early 1970s who encountered a horrid man-like form covered with thick, dense fur near the entrance to an underwater cave. The creature moved with astonishing speed through the water and ripped off the diver's mask, but the hapless victim managed to fight it off and gain the surface, suffering from shock and lacerations. Very interesting. That
You
seems
know
like
what's
a decent
odd
book.
about these? One of the themes I've seen in the Arkansas cryptids is that they have some feline characteristics to them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's here we go. Gowrow or Goro or Gowro or some kind of row. The Arkansas Gazette hoax In 1897, journalist Elbert Smithy reported on the, we're just going to say Gowrow, a terrifying monster said to haunt the Ozarks, with an illustration based on an alleged photo. If you look at the picture, it kind of looks like a cross between a large rat, walrus again, and a spiky thing. Like
Would you think that this is maybe a crossbreed of a chupacabra?
Could be. Could
You
be.
know, that does kind of look like one. You know, it does.
On that thing. The origin of the name came from, excuse me, the fearsome growl it made while raiding livestock and pets near Blanco, Arkansas. Excuse me, I need another cigarette. The monster hunt posse tracked it to a cave filled with bones. The Gara was killed near a lake after a violent encounter and tore up trees and maimed a man, and was reportedly 20 feet long with tusks, webbed claws, back horns, a spike on its back, and a bladed tail. Its body was supposedly sent to the Smithsonian, but vanished.
Disappeared.
Editor Fred Alsop later called it probably without foundation in fact, suggesting was a clever piece of frontier journalism. But again, there's a lot of species out there that we have never seen before.
It was clickbait.
Clickbait back in the 19th century.
And it sounds like they took elements of like that White River monster thing with the spiky, that was in the water, and then they threw in a little bit of chupacabra to eat the livestock and some of this other stuff.
Yeah, and it's
It's a very confused animal.
It's no small coincidence that Blanco in Spanish is white, so maybe that's I don't know. Never know. White.
Whoops.
More. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. We can do that.
He is everywhere, Bigfoot.
Because there is big feet in Arkansas, far beyond the Fouke monster of Boggy Creek. Bigfoot sightings are reported across the Ozark and Wichita forests. There's a organization out there called the Bigfoot Field Researchers Association, or BIFRA.
You know what's interesting? That their website is really interesting because you can go through and they keep it up to date, and so people put in reports of and so there are some pretty contemporary reports about this being sighted around Arkansas. I'm starting to wonder, but every state we've covered so far has a form of Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yeah. It's a big primate.
I'm thinking maybe they're, what is it, a migrational animal type of thing?
Could be.
That makes sense.
Could be, yeah, that does make sense.
Well,
it does seem to be appear when it's a colder climate type. You never hear, we saw it in the desert. No, it's always in the forest at night, cold temperatures.
Yeah, I think if you were covered in fur, the last place you'd want to be is a warm climate.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of animals that I guess intentionally, or as intentionally as an animal can, avoid contact with other animals, whether they be human or other animals. Look at snow leopards. There's like 9 pictures of them. They're very, very secretive or quiet, or they just stay hidden. They stay out of, they're very solitary. So I don't think it's too far-fetched that there could be a primate. There's dozens of primates. We're primates. We're apes with car keys. That is, like Jose said, migratory.
It makes sense because, until doing this show, I didn't realize how widespread these stories were.
Yeah, I didn't.
I just kind of thought, they're in Washington and maybe Northern California. I never realized that there's so many of them everywhere, sightings.
For me, I only knew because my dad loved to travel and there were too many of us, so we camped. We booked that many rooms, man. We had to bring our own food. We came with 6 kids minimum and a grandmother. You know what I mean? So we camped a lot. And when you go to these campgrounds, you'd meet other kids from other places. And some of them were the locals because they'd hang out there at the summer because there was the lake, there was the pool, there was the arcade. So grandparents would be like, I'll take them to the lake for a month, you know, but they live there. And so, yeah, I've heard about Bigfoot almost every place I had ever been. And I had been in
40-something states.
40-something states
Wow.
by the time I was 18.
Wow.
And all of them had the big scary thing in the woods and Bigfoot and what he's looking for and what he's trying to do.
Widespread.
What is he trying to do in those stories?
Oh,
Because most of them here are kind of benign unless they have like interaction with Native Americans or whatever is what I've heard.
basically they were just, he doesn't like to be seen or caught, but he's got a big growl and he's a huge presence and darkness comes with him because he's towering and his growl or his sight terrifies you and you gotta leave or he will kill and eat you. But he doesn't start out that way. He starts out just terrifying you with his very presence. So it's always some giant thing in the woods that they can't totally explain.
You know, and like Jose
That-
mentioned before, it has, you know, the sightings, it's always accompanied by this really bad smell. They really smell bad.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have toilet paper, you know.
That's all that fur.
I've done farming and I've been around enough animals where you have to take your kids in to touch things at the zoo if you're the great mom. They all smell.
Yeah.
They do, but this is worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard
Well,
of this-
even we humans do too. If we don't shower for a day or two, it's pretty bad.
We lived in Panama. We lived across the street from a cattle farm. And about once a week, the field, the pasture that was literally 20 feet from our front door, they put them all there. And
they had to rotate.
They had to rotate the fields, and you knew when they were there.
Oh, yeah.
They were so loud.
Yeah, and there's no,
and there was a smell.
Yeah, and there's no air. We didn't have air conditioning or heat because we were in a temperate climate. It was like 65 to 75 degrees all year long. So no one had any of that.
It was either wet or dry, but the temp didn't.
So you had your windows open, and you never knew. I didn't know what day they were bringing the cattle over, but I knew that when we woke up that morning, we were like, cattle across the street. Yep.
There's a pig farm near here, and sometimes I prepare just to go by, and I get Vicks and put it in my nostrils.
Yes.
So
we lived around the street
nasty.
from one.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, in the summer it was hard.
Oh, downwind from a slaughterhouse. Smithfield's Barbecue's main slaughterhouse was just upwind from us. And yeah, we moved after about 3-4 months. We were like, no, I can't.
I don't think I'd last that long. That's nasty.
More ghostly lights.
Here we call it Bolton.
Bolton, yeah. More ghosts. Yeah, there's a sewage treatment plant close to us that sometimes it's just unbearable. More ghostly lights and weirdness. How about that, huh? Dover lights. Unexplained colored lights appear in the hills near Dover, Arkansas. Local legends tie them to Spanish ghosts, miners, or native spirits. They're still seen today from an overlook near Big Piney Creek. These sources come from media, KATV News, Vocal Media, a guy named Jeffrey Paul, but there are verified sources for this. No one knows what they are, but they're different colors. And
it reminds me of the Marfa lights kind of thing, because they're close to the ground, and people do see them. That news story, KATV, they take people for family outings. They just go to go watch the lights.
Just go watch the lights, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is that a little figure right there? Okay. The Natural Steps Ghost. Now, Martha Sanders, a young bride, lost her husband, Gustavus, days after their wedding. Gustavus died in October of 1880 from an unknown disease that took many lives in the small community. Probably TB consumption. Before his death, Gustavus and Martha decided to wed at their favorite meeting spot at the top of the natural steps overlooking the Arkansas River. Well, after Gustavus was laid to rest behind the old wooden church, the grief was too great for Martha, and after his funeral, she just disappeared, never to be seen again by family or friends. She allegedly took her life by jumping into the Arkansas River from the natural steps. She's now reportedly a ghostly woman in white who disappears into the river.
This is a very famous one.
I remember this. Vanishing hitchhiker of Highway 365. According to the legend, travelers on the dark road of Arkansas Highway 365 sometimes encounter a young girl walking in the pouring rain in a torn white dress while crossing one spooky bridge. Some say they have stopped to give the young girl a ride. Those who stop say they pick the girl up and drive her to a nearby home. However, whenever they arrive, the drivers discover the girl has suddenly disappeared. In another account, a young man driving down Arkansas 365 spotted a girl soaked from the rain and offered her a ride. Placing his coat over her shoulders, she gave directions to her home, but when he got out to help her from the car, you guessed it, she vanished. Confused, he knocked on the door of the house where a woman told him her daughter had died years ago, and the hitchhikers, did I misread that? Had died years ago and hitchhikes home once a year. There you go. The man later found his coat draped over a girl's tombstone at the cemetery. The source for that is online. I read about this a while ago. I remember this story. Yeah.
I didn't have time to try to find her name and the mother's name, to see if there's, but I've seen some documentaries about it, and apparently it has been verified that this was a real person and this kept happening.
Wow.
But I don't know if the mother's still alive. So when was that? 70s, 50s? So she may not be alive anymore.
I don't know. Someone got Google?
Yeah. Well, I would need a name but anyway, it's kind of strange, that one.
Yeah. Keep your lights on, though. Your coat close and your disbelief suspended. The paranormal highway continues to roll on in a very nice late 60s Chevelle.
Yeah, muscle cars.
That's why we love the Winchesters.
Right?
Wow, yeah.
Oh man, we found out about that show. We literally sat on our couch and binged all 5 seasons.
Oh my gosh,
11
for
seasons.
7 months.
God,
every time I get home from work. How many shows?
I feel like my kids are going to be them because I write all the cryptids on a notebook, and one day they're going to find it.
He was a monster hunter. Yeah. So, Arkansas, what's next?
I think
California, yeah. Well, that should be interesting.
Yeah.
I have some California stories, too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And I bet Jose does, too. Good. Yeah. I like having real stories.
Yeah. One is...
I don't.
One surrounds the Paradise Fire several years back.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. You have to tune back in to hear that if you want.
Exactly. So we'll be back next Saturday. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It's good to see everybody, to see Jose and his beautiful little building there hiding from the wind. Jose. And I'm sorry if I didn't respond or anything. My internet went up and down 8 times during the show. So
I blame Elon Musk.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, so we'll see you next weekend for our California stories.
Yeah. Right. There's no B state, so yeah.
There we go. All right. Well, y'all have a good one. We'll see you next weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
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 Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.